everyone. My voice is still somewhat not back, but I'm gonna try my best so that you guys can hear me. So, reading progress for this week, as I told you guys in the reflection as well, that I've been working on the research paper because it's quite extensive and quite long. So, I've been reading articles back and forth, and the compulsory or the cluster reading that I was doing before, I continue to do that this week. And I also am at the end of the novel Juliet Takes a Breath. So I think in my reading, I learned it's definitely, we were discussing if it has all the elements of a YA novel, and we see Juliet sort of come to a stage where halfway through the novel, she's quite in love with Harlow, who's a role model for her, and she's a white woman who talks about feminism and owning owning your body as a woman, and all the lady parts and the period parts, and not be embarrassed. And she talks a lot about auras and energies and vibes. And then at a talk, she basically puts Juliet under the bus because Zaira, who is her lover's lover, Maxine's lover, she asks her a question that, do you think that what you're all about, what you're promoting is white feminism, and are you ready to talk about, how intersexuality works and how different races are treated differently, whether it's a woman of color or whether it's Latino women or black women, they don't have the same experiences as white women. So white women still talk about their feminism, but it's not the same as being a person of color. And that actually gets me to another book that I had read a little while ago. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it here, but it was basically, the book is called Against White Feminism. If I get a chance, I'll just cue it in. And that book talks about, it's by a Pakistani woman, and it talks about how experiences of a person of color are very different when they talk about their feminism from a white person's feminism. So there were just some passages that I kind of found interesting. When Harlow sends her a letter, she says, love, she signs it, love, the fucked up white lady that's trying to live an anti-racist, pro-woman, feminist life that loves you something fierce. So you can see that Harlow is trying her best, but sometimes what happens is that when you have a privileged bubble, you're unable to think from another lens. And I think Harlow here is trying her best, but at the same time, when Juliet gets back, she's unable to take responsibility for what she's done. She's announced in front of people that I have this, this like charity project, like this Latino woman who's trying to make it out of the Bronx. And that wasn't okay. It really wasn't. And so Juliet goes to her cousin Ava, and she's trying to understand, what these terms mean. What does queer mean? What does bi mean? What does it mean to be feminist and homosexual? So there's a lot going on there. And then she says, so mom and grandma have their experiences of being women, and we can honor that, like all the breasts and babies and marriage stuff. But it's not our job to be like, oh, in order to be a woman, everyone has to have all these things checked off the list or something like that. So what she's trying to establish here is that in order to be a woman, you need to feel like a woman. You don't necessarily have to check like, oh, period, breasts, it's not a checklist. So you can identify as something you're not born with. And that these are concepts that I think, the modern society today is struggling with, because there were quite sharp binaries maybe 2 decades ago, and now people are owning themselves and how they feel, and that doesn't need to be checked into boxes. So Juliet, being this teenager, is trying to understand that she is politically correct, and she understands others, and you don't really ask others what your preferred gender pronouns are. And Ava at one point also says that these are not preferred, these are like my right. So it was really interesting to see that Ava talks about she is more in control and she has knowledge of these things and she knows what's her right. But Juliet is learning. So it's a good contrast between the two characters as well, Ava and Juliet. And I think Juliet towards the end is coming to a point where she is learning the right terminology, to be okay with people as they are. And I think I'm gonna probably buy the reflection. I'll have more to say because the book would have ended by then. But yeah, that's me.